Hello everyone, John Runner 88 here, and welcome to another Star Wars figure review. This time we have the Walmart exclusive ARC Commander Havoc. He is part of the Clone Wars 20th anniversary line that is going through Walmart, at least for the vintage collection. I don't believe they have announced anything for that specific anniversary for like any other retailers right now, and I don't remember 100% if all of the Black Series figures are at Walmart as well. I think they might be, but I'm not 100%. Because I don't care about the Black Series, because I care about the vintage collection. And one awesome part about being a fan of the vintage collection right now is we've got tons of ARC Troopers, and we can take all their helmets off. Even the generic Battlefront ARC Trooper, you can take his helmet off. And I love that about vintage collection. Kind of sucks for Black Series. I'm sorry, Black Series collectors. It's a shame that you can't just line up all you guys like this. I know the named clone arcs that they've come out with for Black Series, they can be like unmasked and stuff, but as far as like any other trooper, you can't do that. But I digress, because we're here for Havoc. Move him out of the way for a second. Slide in the card back for people who enjoy seeing that. You can see that's kind of ripped off because the bubble was actually peeled up on the top, so I just kind of peeled it all off. And you can see that it didn't rip much of the cardboard. I think that some of the glue on the bubbles for this release, it's not adhering the best or something like that. I ordered two because I wanted to inspect the paint apps because they're not showing up in stores or anything. That's just like how Walmart exclusives have been going recently. They just don't show up at stores for some reason or another. So I order a couple of them just to compare the paint apps and get a good looking one, because nothing worse than getting some wonky eyes. And then we've got the Clone Wars 20 logo. So nice little card back. I would rather a realistic depiction of a clone to just fit in line with most of the vintage collection. I think that's just a better aesthetic for the vintage collection, and it's a little, out of place when you've got like a digital render of like a cartoon, like an animated style character. But onto Havoc, because there's actually a variant of this figure, and he looks like this. The variant is just the stock head that they used for Echo. Echo is the first time we got that stock head, and they've used it on most of the ARC Troopers, including this guy. So you can see the stock head over here. Looks a little different because they like painted Echo's, like they gave his lips like a little tint to him. I think all these guys have a little lip tint, and they skip out on that for the most part with the other releases. But one thing that is fabulous about this release, I'm just trying not to screw up any paint apps. It's easy to rub their eyebrows off if you're not too careful with these figures sometimes. But look at that, some fabulous sideburns and a nice little soul patch going on there. I love that they did this. Now I know that it is relatively inaccurate as to what he might look like in the actual series. We never did see ARC Commander Havoc with his helmet off, so we don't know what he looks like. But there was a clone trooper named Havoc in a previous episode. I think it was like season 1 or 2, and his facial hair looked like this. So I don't know if they got if Lucasfilm was just like, hey, these are the same character, or I don't know who made the decision, but I'm glad they did, because it adds just like a lot of character to this ARC Trooper. And it's simply just that head, but with some black sideburns and a black soul patch just printed on. It is... All right, stop doing that, camera. My goodness. it is just like, look at that. Look at Jesse back there. It looks glorious. We'll get to him. But I love that they just did this. And I was very concerned at first when they announced this figure because they didn't show any pictures with his helmet off. And I thought that was very weird because all of the previous ARC Troopers have had their helmets able to come off. And they even showed the in-package shot. It was like a mock-up. And his helmet was on in the package. So I was even more concerned. I was like, does his helmet come off? Is his helmet going to come off? Like, what's going on? And then they revealed, I think it was like Colt Next or Blitz or one of them, and their helmet was off. And I was like, okay, so his helmet comes off. Can his come off? And then some images showed up online of Havoc with a plain head. And then some images showed up with this head, the sideburns and stuff. And I was like, okay, so what's going on here? Like, what's being, what's the issue? So apparently there was like a running change, and I think mostly Europe and like overseas got the plain head, which I'm sorry, guys and gals, collectors at large. That must be very frustrating. Because I got the bearded one. I think Canada's getting the bearded one. And that's just... he's more fun. He looks much cooler. And I'm really happy that they did that with this figure. But aside from that, my normal gripes with these figures, knee pads should be on the shin armor, not on the thigh armor, so that makes it awkward when you bend the knee and you just got like the knee pad sticking down. That's just like how it is with these guys. They're not going to fix it because it costs money to do that. Thankfully, the new clone troopers have that issue fixed. The regular clone troopers. The soft good, or this should be soft goods, it restricts the leg movement so much, and it's very frustrating because they've got all the articulation, but it's just hindered by this rubber here. It would be really cool if they made the change. I'm thinking eventually, at some point, I may go in and add some soft goods myself, but that's going to involve completely cutting away the comma, and I don't necessarily want to do that because it might end up looking bad. So, but aside from that, and I think those are my biggest issues with the figure. And it's just ongoing issues because they haven't fixed it yet, but what are you going to do? But his helmet goes on nice and good. I had a previous figure that the helmet was way too tight. It like ruined the eyebrows. I was able to do like a head swap with a figure that came in that had some wonky eyes. So I hid the wonky head and put the slightly damaged head on the other ARC Trooper, so that was fixed there. One thing that a lot of people don't know about these figures is there's a little, there's little tabs there on the bottom of the armor piece, like these little black tabs. They do actually clip onto the bottom of the chest armor, or the torso armor of the clone, and it actually makes it so that this piece, it's wiggling around a bit now. This one doesn't fit as good, but if it's a nice snug pauldron piece, it will clip down there, and it won't just like go like this all the time. It can clip down there pretty good. This guy's was just pushing right off of him when I first got him. But I took a rubber band and I popped his head off, took the pauldron off, and wrapped a rubber band around all of it to kind of just squeeze it together, and it seemed to help a bit. And I'm also going to go in eventually with some paint, because you can notice on this, he's got little buttons painted, so I'm going to paint the buttons. And then on this guy I also added he's got the out of focus little buttons there, but come on now, there, he's not focusing, but you can see that on all the gauntlets they have their little buttons painted. They do skip out on that on some of these newer ones. You can see in a lot of the promotional images of ARC Commander Havoc that they are colored. So I will paint those eventually because it just adds a little more character, you know. And also, their backpacks, the original ones that they did, they painted their like two-tone, which is nice. I'm not going to worry about that, but it is a difference between like the original three that they came out with and the newer ones. So get his helmet on, fits nice and good. Rangefinder works great. I love when they paint like the tip and stuff. It kind of just makes it look a little more, I don't know, just a little more realistic, I suppose. Instead of just being like a solid piece of like gray plastic. But they've been doing a great job with the paint applications recently. They're nice and straight. The visors are nice and straight. I had some issues with, I think it was Fives and Echo. Their visors were a little lopsided. I corrected them a little bit, but it's much nicer when you get it nice and crisp out of the package. I think the lineup here is a little off on one side, but you know, you don't really notice it much. But yeah, that is ARC Commander Havoc. Great figure. Are you picking him up? Let me know. He's a great figure. I just said it. I'm going to say it again. He's a great figure. Just a few, you know, minor issues I have that could, if they were ever fixed, they would just make these ARC Troopers just absolutely fantastic. But all we have to do now is wait for Blitz and Colt to come out, and we'll have just even more ARC Troopers, and it'll just look even more awesome. Just having them all together, being able to recreate those scenes of them training the clone troopers, the cadets. It's just a good time, you know? So, are you picking them up? Let me know in the comments. Do all that fun stuff. You can like, subscribe. That'd be awesome. Go follow me over on Instagram. I have a lot of behind the scenes pictures, and I do like, you know, other pictures in like different scenes and stuff when I get new figures. Not all the time, most of the time. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Bye, guys.